All right, it is time for the post-game edition of Silver and Black today, Week 13. The Raiders lose to the Chargers 31-14. Officially, the 10th straight loss for the Raiders inside the AFC West division. That leads to the current streak in the NFL, by the way. Scott Branson back with you, along with my good friend Murf from Raiders Fan Radio, with a voice of the fan, of course. And then later on in the second segment, you all get a little voice. You can pop in and join us on our live video drop. And yeah, instead of calls, you come in, we bring you up on video. So you got to show your face. I know a lot of people out there like to be anonymous, but if you want to be on the show, you're going to have to show your face. I will post the link here shortly, so we'll get in there. But the Raiders come out first time without Chip Kelly. Did we see an improvement on offense? Yeah, sort of, I guess. But it is what it is. We'll get into all of that. But we definitely want to talk to you guys. So make sure you drop in when we drop that link into the chat on YouTube, particularly. You'll also get it in chat and other places. But we're here to talk about the game. If you had low expectations, Matt, then you're okay. You're not real bothered by what's going on. The Raiders now 2-10 on the season. The Chargers go to 8-4. Chargers weren't extremely impressive in this game either. So for whatever that's worth, take some, solace in that. But nonetheless, the Raiders, again, now double-digit losses already after Week 13, and it's going to get tough all the way down. They have maybe the Giants, maybe later in the season. Maybe they can beat the Giants. We'll see. But nonetheless, the Raiders now improved to 4th overall if you're keeping track of the tankathon, if you're keeping track of where they sit in the draft order, so they can maybe go get a quarterback. Yeah, a quarterback, that position that's real important in the NFL, then maybe that. But they are 4th now. The Jets did them a favor and won today. Murph, let's go to you, though, with this game to start off. The Raiders came out. They had a nice, impressive drive in that first half. Brock Bowers touchdown. Second half, of course, the other touchdown. Brock Bowers again with a Superman catch all over again. The guy is just the best tight end there is in football. There's just no question at this point. Unfortunately, he's not on a team that can utilize him enough. But looking at this game, we saw the offensive line switch up again. And we saw kind of the same results. And we saw, I think, a better Geno Smith to a certain degree. But overall, Murph, kind of give me your take on this one as watching it. Because I know after listening to you before last week, before Thanksgiving, and again, happy Thanksgiving to you and to everybody else out there as we end that nice holiday weekend today. But give me your sense for this game, what you saw, and if anything at all gave you some hope for at least some improvement. We're not going to say hope for anything else because we know the season's basically over, but give me your take on what you saw today down in Los Angeles at SoFi.
Well, let's keep it positive, Scott, right? We're entering into the holiday season. We've got a lot to be thankful for around this time of year, and so thankful for the amazing members of Raider Nation that uplift and support Silver and Black today and Raiders Fan Radio and all these amazing folks that we have in the chat room tonight. So we'll just keep it positive and stay on the thankful train. And I am thankful that despite the challenges that this coaching staff continually puts its players in, somehow there is an ability for some guys to continue to make plays. And I understand the context. I understand that there were backups, and I understand what the competition looked like today. But Max Crosby has an absolutely dominant game today. Brock Bowers screwed up my bet on the under this week because he made an absolutely ridiculous catch in the end zone. When I don't even know if they were saying that, like, well, look at Geno Smith. He was just trying to, look like he was just trying to throw the ball away. I'm not convinced that he wasn't. And here you got this guy that's able to make this play on the ball. And it's just like, I see guys like that, and I see even Ashton Genty, and people can give Ashton Genty all the crap that they want. The challenges that he's got in front of him going on in the offensive line, and to still turn out some of the I don't want to call them chunk plays because I understand they're not super big gains, but for him to still be churning the football and to still be getting those positive gains, like I got a ton of respect for these guys that continually can stand out amidst an absolute train wreck of a season. You mentioned it. We're now 10 losses in. This is now 6 games in a row. that we've lost. This season is an abject disaster. Pete Carroll and everybody else that's responsible for in the Raiders brass, all of them are committing at this point coaching malpractice, management malpractice. It's, you're a leadership guy like I am, Scott, and when you look at the decisions that are being made and the things that come in from the top down, like it's a literal textbook of what not to do. So despite all of that, to still see guys out there grinding and making plays like that, that gives me a little bit of hope, a little bit of encouragement, and hopefully all of them will be around next year. Well, I know Ashton and Brock don't have a choice, but hopefully the guys that are making plays are going to be around next year for hopefully a coaching regime change.
Right, and I think I know a lot of folks that I was interacting with online during the game were down. Oh, these guys this, these guys that. Listen, the reality is this team is pretty devoid of serious talent. Okay, serious talent and serious depth. So you don't have talent, you can't have depth. You look at what the Chargers were. The Chargers' offensive line was just as banged up as the Raiders, but they have more depth. So you saw the Raiders. Hey, the Raiders made some nice plays here and there. Of course, we saw Herbert hurt it looks like his finger, maybe broke his finger, came out and with one hand still beat the Raiders. So listen, I mean, it is what it is. You have to look at it from this perspective. Did you see the guys that you think will be around? And you just mentioned it, Murph. Guys like Brock Bowers, guys like Ashton Genty. Are those guys going to be around next year? Yeah, you bet they were. Max Crosby, of course. And some of the other guys, hey, they're getting their paycheck. Most of them playing hard. Because they're not very good doesn't mean they're not giving effort, okay? There was a lot of missed tackles on defense. I called that out early. There was a lot of gashing of this defense, and this defense continues to struggle. For all of the I think anger that's been heaped upon Chip Kelly, who's now gone, and that offensive line, and of course Geno Smith. Look, the defense has also had trouble. Now, to be fair to the defense, they're on the field a lot, right? And when you're on the field a lot and you don't have depth, you saw rotations today at defensive back, constantly moving guys in and out. You saw rotations on the offensive line again, and we'll get to the offensive line and what a freak show that is at this point. But I think that you look at this situation and you have to accept they don't have the talent to do it. Now, the coach, that does not let the coaching off the hook either, because I really think Patrick Graham has a lot to ask for, because you're not seeing, and Murph, you mentioned it during the game, you're seeing guys out of position in week 13. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's coaching. Yeah, if a guy's in position and gets beat, okay, that's a lack of talent, whatever. But when you're seeing players on defense that are completely out of position, aren't making tackles, are doing things, and look, I've been a Devin White guy. He's had a resurgent year. Is it good enough to keep his role next year? I don't know. But I will tell you, he had 2 penalties in the first half for 30 yards on plays that a veteran of his caliber should have no business making. So there's still a lack of discipline that we've seen throughout the season on both sides of the ball. So this goes back to coaching. I had somebody arguing with me today that Pete Carroll deserves another year. Absolutely not. This has been such a disaster. And this isn't about calling and just calling on coaches to get fired because a team's not doing well. I don't do that. I've never done that. I've just called out the facts. I know you've done the same. Even though you guys do a show as 3 fans, you're always honest and forthright. You don't just do it as an emotional fan. You also do it as an observer of watching what you're seeing on the football field. And that is exactly what we're seeing. Does the front office own it? Absolutely. We heard this week, Murph, you talked about it on your show. All the dysfunction in the front office. Brady, yes, deserves blame. Spytek, yes, deserves blame. And, of course, Pete Carroll. And then Mark Davis. Everybody deserves this, because this process, this system is allowing what you're seeing that's rolled out on the field and what has been the result and why the Raiders sit at 2-10.
Absolutely. Scott, and okay, we were positive there in the first little bit of the conversation. Now let's dig into this stuff, because this is the things that are glaring, is that even when you aside from those individual performances of the day, as you mentioned, you see a lot of players that are out of position. You also see a lot of awful design. You see a lot of these cover threes, a lot of these zones. You're putting Devin White in a position to cover Keenan Allen. Like, in what world Does that make sense on paper or otherwise?
Right,
And
right,
you know,
right.
and then you couple that with the lack of effort when it comes to tackling. Like, is there a worse team in the NFL tackling in the open field than the Las Vegas Raiders? My answer to that question is no, and that is 100% lies on the responsibility of the coaching staff. This is a Pete Carroll that literally prides himself on tackling. When I was a youth football coach, way before Pete Carroll was the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, I used to study Pete Carroll tackling videos so I would understand how to teach proper technique to take the head out of the play and get the guy to the ground, things that he was doing 10 years ago. This is a guy that built his career as a definitive thing in his career, and we're the worst tackling team in football. So, like, is it him? Is it the staff? Is it the collective? Is it the play? I don't know. But what I do know is that it starts at the top and then it trickles on its way down. And so they have got to be held responsible for that, for not only the out of position, but also the play design. And then in terms of not wanting to move on from him, you know, you mentioned you had a back and forth, and I've had a few too. People that be like, you know, they're like, oh, that's one of the things that gets the Raiders is that they're always wanting to move on from guys, and no one's going to want to coach here when you're one and done, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing, man. When you have this level of aggression in a football team, you do not earn consistency. You don't earn. This is not, you don't have a right to year two just because. Like, you don't get, you in business, you don't lean into things that aren't working. You change. You pivot. There you go. There's a buzzword for you. You have to pivot. You have to change. You got to freaking do something different. And so the way that this Raiders season is going, it's not going well. You're not going to do a full rebuild with a 75 at the time year-old head coach and a 36-year-old quarterback. Like, come on now. Be realistic about it. It's time to move on. And I promise you, if all you got to do is look at the Chicago Bears, look at the freaking at the Carolina Panthers, what do they got? They got first-round quarterbacks. They got young, offensive-minded head coaches. No, it's not the only way to build a successful football team, but it is a very successful formula in the modern-day NFL, and it allows you to build in other positions because you're taken care of for 5 years at the most expensive position in all of football. So it's important for the Raiders to move on, to clean house, and then to promise the next guy coming in a first-round quarterback, and whether that's, you know, Mendoza or that's Ty Simpson, whatever, just those two names off the top of my head, in either one of those guys is an instant upgrade for this Raiders team. And you can't tell me that a young offensive-minded head coach like Clint Kubiak isn't going to want to go to freaking Las Vegas where they have endless amounts of salary cap and then a first-round QB to coach up. And by the way, and the last thing I'll give you this, Scott, is that I am not sitting here like clamoring for every coach to get fired after 1 year that doesn't have success. But and because the reason why is all you got to do is rewind the clock back to 2014 when Reggie McKenzie drafts Derek Carr, drafts Khalil Mack, drafts Gabe Jackson, and the Raiders won 4 damn games. Okay, we started off that season 0-10, but we were still patient because we understood the plan. We saw the building blocks. We knew where this thing was going to go. And then 2 years later, we were in the damn playoffs. No one in Raider Nation is going to be going, fire the guy. No. 1 year in on a young quarterback with a young freaking coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, and pushing against it, I don't get it, man.
Well, and Murph, and here's the thing too. And by the way, Raiders in the NFL put up, I think it was on X. Yeah. How cold is it in Vegas? Is it being? I'm not in Vegas, man. I'm in Ohio where it's 24 degrees. So I just wanted to answer that question because he was in there. But yeah, and see, that's the point here is the way people are inaccurately assuming that the Raiders firing coaches all the time is just a direct result of them not being patient with coaches. And that's not the case. Has it been the case in the past? Perhaps, in some cases. But this is a systemic issue in the organization. It goes higher than the coach. And look, again, Mark Davis deserves blame. He has not made good decisions. They did not make a good decision this year. I thought it would be an okay decision, but they've regressed so poorly. Now we're seeing all the dysfunction come out over the Chip Kelly stuff, the positions, I think, strategic leaks from the Pete Carroll folks to blame it on Chip Kelly. He was forgetting his own plays. Then we hear no from Rappaport yesterday that, well, no, maybe not. Maybe it's because Pete Carroll wants to run his offense, and that wasn't Pete Carroll's. So whatever the real reason is, it points to dysfunction. I had people earlier in the year telling me, "Oh, why do you say there's dysfunction?" Look at it. This is what's happened. And so you're right. You go back to the 14 season when they take Carr, they take those guys, and within 2 years, they had turned it around. And unfortunately, Derek Carr gets the injury, and that kind of ends that run, unfortunately. So who knows what could have been. So that's it. But I think that where you're at now and what we saw today, if you were expecting much to change because Greg Olson, bless his heart, was taking over the play calling, you were in for a rude awakening. I don't think Raider fans who have been longtime Raider fans who are realistic were expecting that. Maybe you were expecting things to be a little better. And in some ways, I think you could say, yeah, you saw a little better out of that, some play calls, getting Brock Bowers involved, maybe, yeah, maybe that. Sticking to the run, even though they can't run because the offensive line is so bad, yes, that still happened. So you saw some of that, but nothing's going to change. And again, you have to ask yourself this question. And if you believe this, good for you. I will tell you you're wrong based on my own opinion. If you think that Pete Carroll can turn this around next year and be the guy to develop a young quarterback and be the guy to bring in a dynamic offensive play caller, I think you're just wrong. I don't think it happens. And I think we saw that tonight. So that's what it is. And then from a defensive standpoint, as we talked about that, a lot of people, Patrick Graham is the only thing good about this coaching staff. Look, Patrick Graham is okay. He doesn't have the horses, if you will, but we also haven't seen a lot of progression there, Murph, and that concerns me as well. Look, if Pete Carroll is one and done, which I anticipate, then I don't think there's any way Patrick Graham survives yet another coaching regime to come through and coach this defense. I think what the Raiders need, and we'll get you guys, if you want to drop in on the video again, I'm going to post the link. You can drop in on video and tell us what you think. I'll post it up here as well. And join us, but I just don't see it happening. So you look at this and you say, okay, bad decisions were made. So now what do? You don't double down on those bad decisions. You make the corrections and you start to move forward. They're playing some of these rookies like we wanted them to do earlier in the year. How well they're able to do, Caleb Rogers, these guys, we don't know. I mean, they were subbing in and out. They're rotating them. So you didn't really get a chance. But the result up front on the offensive line overall, and I have to watch the tape to see him specifically, but it wasn't much different than what we saw with the rest of the offensive line in there.
Yeah, so gosh, there's a lot to get to there. So I want to go back to the Patrick Graham thing a little bit, and I'm with you. Like, there's no one in the NFL, well, I say no one, but like rarely do coordinators survive a regime change. Right. Rarely do they survive it twice. They sure as shit don't make it 4 times. Like, there's no way that Patrick Graham is going to stick around. And there's been a lot of comparison, a lot of talk between us fans. Is this the worst Raider team we've seen maybe ever? And you got to go back to 1961, to really, get into something that's inept, but none of us remember that. You know what I mean? Or some folks might, but a lot of us remember 2006 very vividly. And the talk around that team was always, the offense was absolutely horrible, but the defense was pretty good. And so when we look at that 2006 defense with Stuart Schweigert and Nnamdi Asomugha and those guys, they put up great numbers. They were literally a top 10 defense in some categories. And some fans will tell you, be like, oh, it's because the other team didn't really have to do a lot or whatever. Well, other teams don't have to do a lot against this team either. And so that team in 2006, as awful as that team was, I think this team's worse. And so you got to hold Patrick Graham accountable for that, because that team had the worst offense that the Raiders history, and still had an incredible defense. Here we are, not far from having one of the worst offenses in Raider history, and the defense is still giving up a ton of points and giving up a bunch of yards and allowing players that we've never heard of before have career days. You've got to, at some point, is what I say about anybody when it comes to the Raiders. At what point then do you hold them accountable? You know, when you look at different players that people make excuses for over many, many, many years, Scott, okay, well then what is it then that you're going to finally look at them and actually hold them accountable for?
Right.
Well, all I can do is look at the areas of which said people are responsible for and hold them accountable. And then the other thing you talked about was the dysfunction in leadership, and I'll keep this brief and turn it back over to you because I know we got a lot to get to tonight, but Scott, we have so much dysfunction that has been coming up. You guys brilliantly broke the story about the Jim Gray thing and kind of revealed that to us. And then I kind of went down a rabbit hole after that, and not in a spirit of speculation. That is not my freaking energy. And anybody that ever says anything about me and what we do, call it a clickbaity or whatever, freaking go, pound sand. Because that's not what, and I was almost something else almost came out there. And
That's all right.
That's not what we're trying to do. What I'm trying to do is understand. I want to understand. And I want to learn based on what's out there. And when Scott and Mo brought up all the information that came up around Jim Gray, and then you start digging into what the actuality is of it and where this thing is going, at an absolute minimum, Scott, there are way too many voices in the room. Again, you and I are students of leadership, and we all know that you have to have solid leadership with a solid vision to share to your constituents, which you can then put them in positions to be successful. And without that and that delegation of their own areas of responsibility and allowing them to find their successes, without that cascade of leadership, it doesn't matter if it's a hospital or the military, or in this case, a football team or a school or whatever. Every institution has certain commonalities when they are successful, and the Raiders, again, are a blueprint for how not to do it. Like at a minimum, that's what it is right now. And we don't know what it is. We can only that's where we're kind of forced to be like, well, okay, Amy Trask said this, and the ownership structure is this. So we kind of try to draw some conclusions and read the tea leaves. But until that stuff gets figured out, until there's a very definitive power structure for the Raiders, Scott, I don't know how soon this thing gets figured out, and that's pretty freaking depressing.
Well, and that's that. And I know you've had the same point of view as I've had, which is you bring in somebody, and we've been saying it for a couple of years, I know, which is you bring in a president of football operations, whatever the title is, not Sandra Morgan, who's the president of the business operations side of things, but the football side. And it's like, Mark Davis, you stay out of it. All you do is say, okay, hey, I need you to sign this check for this coach or this GM or whoever it is. And that's it. That's all you do. Yeah. You are an owner. Yeah, you're there, you're consulted, but you cede the power over the football operation to somebody. Now, how do you hire that person? You can get into that too. But nonetheless, you let that person make the decisions and you stay out of it, because guess what? It hasn't worked the way you've done it, since Al passed in 2011, right? It just hasn't worked.
It's Jeffrey
not that you
Lord.
haven't right. Not that you haven't tried. It's not about trying. It's about succeeding, and you haven't been able to do that. So I think that that's what you have to do. To me, that's the way forward. And if Mark Davis is honest with himself, maybe he does that finally and says, okay. Because he's said that to a certain degree, but I go back, and it's easy to look at it with fresh eyes when you're outside the moment. But you go back to the press conference where Spytek and Carroll were introduced, and one of the reporters in the pool asked, "Hey, so who makes the decisions on player personnel? Is it both of you?" And they kind of looked at each other, and Pete Carroll spoke up first and said, "Well, yeah, we're going to work together." You look back at that now, and you're like, it should have been John Spytek. I'm the guy. I make the calls. Yes, I'll consult Pete as the head coach and as somebody who's got a lot of experience doing this, but ultimately I'm the guy that Mark Davis hired to make those decisions. We did not hear that, which gives concern. Maybe he believes that. Maybe it didn't happen. Now we're seeing all this dysfunction. And listen, that dysfunction, it's not one person lying and telling you a story. We're seeing it multiple spots, multiple reports from credible NFL media. This is happening. To what degree, we don't know. Who's to blame? We don't know. All of that. But nonetheless, you have to overcome it. And to me, that's the thing. I see a lot of stuff in the chat about quarterbacks and what quarterbacks should the Raiders draft. We're going to get into the draft later. But the reality is, and my man Dominique up in Missouri in the Show Me State saying draft one every year. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Just keep drafting them until you hit. Agreed. Look what other teams have done. They've done the same thing. So That's what you're going to do. All right. We're going to step aside for our first break here. When we come back, we're going to get to you guys. That's right. We're going to bring you in on the live video chat where Murf and I will answer your questions or share your misery, whatever it is you want. We will do that here on Silver and Black today, the postgame edition. Thank you. See, it's cold. I can't even move my mouth. Here on Silver and Black today. Don't go anywhere. We're an Odyssey Sports original podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, whether you're watching us on video or listening to us on audio. We certainly appreciate it. We're coming right back. All right, everybody, it's time to tell you about my good friends at Sleeper Picks. Of course, you know, a sponsor here of Silver and Black today on video all season long. Sleeper Picks, have you not done it yet? Get out there and get it. Get a free $100 deposit match. That's right. Put in $100. Sleeper will match up to $100 using the special code you can only get here, GENTY. That's GENTY for that match on your deposit up to your first $100. I'm going to get into my Sunday picks. Are you ready for this? Tonight's game, of course, is the Broncos and those Washington Commanders. And listen, Bo Nix, will he have a passing touchdown? I'm not sure about that, but over 175 yards against that shaky Washington defense, I'm going over 200 yards. That's my selection. Then when it comes to RJ Harvey, let's go Cortland Sutton. 3.5 receptions. Are you kidding me? I'm going 3+ for sure on that one. Now, on the other side of the field, when it comes to the Washington Commanders, 196 passing yards for Marcus Mariota. I don't know. I'm just going to go with 150 there. So my sleeper picks for tonight's big Sunday night matchup, Cortland Sutton over 3 receptions, Bo Nix over 200 passing yards, and Marcus Mariota, the former Raider, former Heisman Trophy winner, 150+ passing yards. A $20 wager on that nets you 32 with the correct on that way. Check out Sleeper Picks. Don't forget, GENTY is the code to get your match up to $100 deposit. This offer is good, not in all states, but most likely your state. For more information and details on what that entails, check out the Sleeper app or the Sleeper website. Come in, join us, play Sleeper Picks Daily Fantasy Football. Use the code GENTY. That's GENTY to get that match up to $100 on your deposit. All right, welcome back to this edition, the postgame edition, Week 13, Silver and Black today. Scott Branson along with Murf from Raiders Fan Radio. We're talking a little bit about the game. We're going to get to your calls, your videos. You're going to drop in with us and join us live here on the show with Murf and I. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your audio. Just look for Silver and Black today. Don't forget, rate and review. If you're watching us on video, subscribe there too. Hit that thumbs up. And don't forget to hit the notifications bell. All right, Murf, we're going to get out there and talk to Raider Nation. You ready for this?
I'm ready for, yes, I love it talking to Raider Nation. And only when they don't yell at me.
Well, kidding. We'll see if we'll see if they yell at you, but hey, if they do, we can always cut them off. No, we won't cut them off. Some people like to cut off callers. I don't do that. But here we go. All right, we've got a lot of them too, so we're gonna try to get to as many as we can. Okay. So try to be as brief as you can. We want to have a conversation with you, but also be cognizant that we got a lot of people online want to get to you. We're going out to our buddy in Chicago. That is my man Tarek, who I have to give him credit. He called it, Murf. He texted me before the game. He said, final score, Chargers 31, Raiders 13. So he was only 1 point off on the Raiders side of it. Tarek, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? How you doing? Good to see you again.
Good, buddy.
Good to see you, Tarek.
Quickly start by saying happy 63rd birthday to Bo Jackson. All we have are the glory years. 38 years today. He went 18 for 221 in Seattle. It was a glorious moment. Just want to say that to Bo. Just regarding the game today, you guys, I mean, realistically, we didn't expect any major improvements. I mean, just the fact that Greg Olsen is in his third stint as our offensive coordinator speaks to the dysfunction. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that's outrageous. 10 straight division losses, which is incredible. But at this point, you guys, I hope we finish 2-15. I'm not rooting for the Raiders to win anymore. I'm rooting for specific players like Jack Besh, Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers. I'm rooting for individual players that I know are the core of our future. But at this point in time, I think it's a foregone conclusion. It better be that Pete Carroll is gone. I mean, when you talk about he's preaching competition all year long, then you talk about the favoritism, playing his guys, not playing some of these younger guys who are as high as second and third round draft picks. And then the nepotism with Brennan Carroll. Like, you're going to get rid of Chip Kelly. You're going to get rid of the special teams guy. But Your son is a disgrace as the offensive line coach. Never should have had a job in the first place. I wish we could hear something from Spytek. I think it's a bad look to not say anything to the fans. But I do think it's a foregone conclusion, you guys, that at this point, Pete Carroll, once the season concludes, is either going to step down or he's going to be terminated. He's going to get that option behind closed doors. I continue to have little respect for Mark Davis. I refer to him as a very good con man. He feeds off his dad's legacy and continues to make millions of dollars. The audacity to have the most expensive tickets in the league. But I want to speak right quick to what Murf said. What's the road to relevance going to look like? There is no quick fix here, you guys. The front office is in flux. I was like, where is this all coming from regarding Jim Gray, for crying out loud? But the coaching staff, we better get it right in the draft and free agency. Not only do we not have, and we have a depleted roster, not only do we not have quality starters at glaring positions of need across the team on both sides of the ball, including special teams, but we don't have any depth either. So we're going to go into it again with a lot of cap money. We better get a quarterback in the first round unless it's an offensive lineman. But it's going to take a while. I mean, I've been a fan. I'm 52 myself, Murph. And, man, it's been brutal. And I'm just sick of all the dysfunction and all the losing. But I agree with you guys completely. I don't think we're relevant for another 3 to 5 years. No quick fix here. I was hopeful of that at the start of the season. But I think it's going to be an interesting offseason. But on Black Monday, I better wake up hearing that Pete Carroll. All I want for Christmas is that.
Oh, Murph, your comments on Tarek's points of view here.
Tarek, you're the best, man. I love hearing your calls every week on Silver and Black Today, and appreciate you joining us here tonight. You mentioned there at the top of your comments there about Jack Bech, man. How nice was that to see that young man finally get some play? I mean, we can blame Chip Kelly, we can blame whoever. At the bottom line is that, and it really wasn't a lot today. And then I know he got injured, but wasn't that a little refreshing to see the guy that you drafted the second round actually show up on the screen once in a while?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think players like Jack Bech, I think players like Mike Mayer, even let's go back to Hunter Renfrow. These guys would have been have had a lot more success on other franchises, on functional franchises. I mean, it's kind of early. We haven't ruined Bech's career yet. We haven't ruined Genty's career, but we better get it right because you don't want a lot of our core star players who have high expectations of winning to check out. So Jack Bech should have gotten these type of reps weeks ago, but instead you fly in 33-year-old Tyler Lockett, more favoritism there. You're not playing these guys consistently. They should have been well versed into the rotation at this time of the year. So hopefully we got 5 more games to go. Hopefully our young guys, Hemingway and Paguest, see some more time as well, guys.
Yeah, great.
So Tarek, Dominique wants to know, what coach do you want?
Anybody who's not named Pete Carroll. No, I honestly, I think that's a little bit premature. I don't want a guy coming in from the collegiate ranks. I will say that because other teams can afford to swing and miss. We can't. We missed out on, Lane Kiffin, which Al Davis probably screwed that up. There's been a lot of talk about Kubiak, but I will say this, you guys, without really doing the research yet, I want an offensive-minded coach paired with a high draft pick quarterback. That is the starting formula for success. Don't get a retread like we had with Garoppolo and Minshew and Geno. Get a young offensive-minded guy like Ben Johnson, pair him up with a young quarterback who has a lot of potential. That's the starting point for success, and that's going to want to attract free agents and other coaches who want to join that kind of a movement.
Preach, brother. I couldn't agree with that sentiment more, man. That is the absolute, I'm not going to say it's the only formula, but it's a very prominent, successful formula nowadays in the NFL. It's time for the Raiders to do it because it's the only one we haven't tried.
Yeah. And not only that, look, it's never guaranteed when you get a quarterback, but you just got to keep doing it. You got to try something different. And I think you're absolutely right. Tarek, my man, as always, a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by.
Take care.
All right.
See you,
Tarek
awesome.
out in Chicago. Gotta like that. And now we're gonna go out to our man who listen, he told us weeks ago, he said, listen, I always knew this was gonna be a rebuild. I wasn't expecting anything this year. And that's Raider Rube. And Raider Rube's back with us to tell us he told us so. No, I'm just kidding, Raider Rube. What's up, man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, buddy.
Yeah, it's going okay. It's Mission Mendoza. This is what I'm calling it. Mission Mendoza.
Hey, like it.
I'm all about Mendoza. I'm all about getting the young offensive-minded head coach. Love to do that. But we have to tank. And before you get on the whole, players don't quit, coaches don't quit. I get that. There's two kinds of tanking. The one you guys have been calling for since week 2, and that is play the young guys over the veterans.
Come on.
And 2, don't get in their way. Don't get in Pete Carroll's way. We should not have fired Chip Kelly. We should not have fired Josh McDaniels when we did. If we had let Josh McDaniels fail that year, he had lost the team. If we had cratered that year, we would have had a top 3 pick to take Drake May or Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, depending how bad it got. We would never have seen Antonio Pierce, and we would have had we'd be in year 2, and we'd be looking a lot more like the Patriots right now than we do right now, what we are now. So we need that quarterback, and I think it's being an iffy quarterback class based on all the draft gurus. It's Mendoza, maybe Simpson. That's about it. So if we're not 1 or 2 in the draft, we don't have a quarterback to entice a Clint Kubiak, a Joe Brady, or whoever.
I agree.
So that's where it gets nerve-wracking. It's like, okay, if those guys say no, remember last year Todd Monken didn't want to interview. Liam Cohen, we're hearing from Ted Nguyen at The Athletic, didn't want to interview. Ben Johnson had to be begged by Tom Brady to interview. If we don't have the quarterback, and we have to figure out that path before the coaching search, because that's always first. That's in January. The draft isn't until April. We're not going to be able, unless we have the first pick or at least the second pick. Yes, we could trade the farm to get up to 1, but if Tennessee is going to stay at 1, but that's going to be a tough battle.
Well, and Rube, the thing though to consider with that, and I don't disagree with you, the Raiders need to move as high as they can in the draft, whether it's through futility and their record, as you're saying, or through trade. Because remember, right now they sit at 4, which isn't bad because out of the top 4 teams, 2 of them need quarterbacks. The Saints and now the Raiders. And of course, the Jets are right there. The Jets won today. I understand that. But who knows what the Jets are going to do the rest of the way, right? So you have New Orleans.
Nope, sorry.
No, that's okay. You have New Orleans there at 2 right now. They're going to get a quarterback. And then you have Tennessee, who obviously has their quarterback. So Tennessee, the number 1 spot, I think, with the right offer, could be available, right? So you could leapfrog, but of course, other people are going to try to get up there as well. But
Cleveland's got multiple ones, Rams have multiple ones. You know, a lot of teams have multiple ones, so we don't have the ammo to compete with those guys.
Well, you do. It depends what they're looking for. And Cleveland, if Cleveland does go for a quarterback, which they could, Shedeur Sanders did marginal. He's holding the ball too long, but he did pretty good. So who knows? And the Browns are the Browns. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't disagree with you at all. You have to go up and get the quarterbacks. And yeah, they don't necessarily, you go past 2 or 3. I'm telling you, somebody will still be in love with Arch Manning. It will surprise you. Now he's gotten better as the season's gone on. I'm not a big fan. No, he's not going to come out, but they're thinking about the next year too. You're thinking about him. You're thinking about down the line. So what do teams do? If the Raiders, to your point, want to go out and get one of those young coaches, then you got to tell them, yeah, look, if we're picking first or second, then that's a great selling point to them. If not, then you're saying, if you come on board, we're going to do everything we can to get in that spot. There's no guarantee to it, but to your point, that's true. You have to be appealing to those coaches. And that's why I think there has to be other structural issues change with the Raiders. It can't be Mark Davis doing this. No. It's got to be somebody who they bring in somebody who's like, wow, that's the guy running football operations for the Raiders. Okay, I believe in that guy. I'll come there despite all the crap that happened before. You agree, Murph?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
No, yeah, absolutely. And you know, and when it comes to the quarterback, like we've got to make the move. Like and I fully respect the opinion of people that say, well, you got to build in the trenches. And I'm not disagreeing.
But I do the same.
But I do want to remind everyone of the example of Reggie McKenzie and that 2014 draft class, that when he got his quarterback and then he built an absolute wall in front of him. And yeah, it took a year to sign Kelechi Osemele and to sign Rodney Hudson and to get those guys, and you're drafting Gabe Jackson and whatnot. So it took a minute, but they built that wall in front of him. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that formula. And so I just continue to lean into that because it's the most important position in all of team sports. And until you get that figured out, then your team is going to be listless. And so I just look at it like, and I've mentioned this on this show before, and I'll continue to mention it. Brandon Beane, the general manager of the Buffalo Bills, when he was criticized about the amount of draft capital they gave up to go get Josh Allen, said, look, if it works out, then everyone's going to be happy. And then if it doesn't, neither one of us are going to be here anyways. And I think that mentality and to feed into what Rube was saying there is that when you have the option to sell the farm, you got to do it for that position. I'm not saying be irresponsible or sloppy in the draft or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not encouraging that. But when you're in that position to when things have finally freaking devolved into one of the worst seasons that your franchise has ever experienced, then take the shot. You got to take the shot. And then the last thing I'll say is this, and anybody that's like, well, what happened the last time we did it? Jamarcus Russell was 20 years ago. Get over it. Like, it's time to make the move, Rube, right?
Absolutely. We can't be afraid because of Jamarcus Russell. No, we do need to take a swing. Absolutely. I just don't want to go the swing of Carolina Panthers where we don't have anything in the cupboard and we're expecting our quarterback behind an already bad offensive line to now have to try to go and fend for his life next year. And just like what happened in Carolina. Yeah, Buffalo is the great prime example of it working. But then there's the Carolina end where you're now 3 years further back because you've traded everything away to get Bryce Young. And Bryce Young, who's playing better now, still wouldn't build my franchise around a 5'12", 5'11" quarterback, 5'8" quarterback, whatever he is. But that's what they're doing. I also think we should keep an open mind on young defensive head coaches. I know it's just because if we can't sell the quarterback idea, the Chris Shulas, even the Robert Salas, those guys, I think the younger defensive coaches are more open-minded to offense than an older defensive coach like the Vic Fangio, Pete Carroll types. So I think just because I think the top young minds may not come to the Raiders, and I don't want the next Bill Callahan, I don't want the next, Adam Gase. I don't want just any offensive coordinator. I want to make sure it's the right offensive guy.
Agreed.
So,
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm saying we shouldn't turn down the possible next DeMeco Ryans or the next Mike Vrabel just because they're not an offensive guy. That's
true, because especially if they have a pool and a tree of guys that they can bring with them that are good on offense as well, because you have to look at that. Absolutely. Raider Rube, man, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it, buddy.
Bye-bye.
See you, Rube.
There's Raider Rube. Next, we're going out to my man, Pastor Mike, behind bars, who's not behind bars right now. He's at home, but he's there. What's up, my man?
Good. How's it going, guys?
It's going all right. We had to watch that football. Wasn't necessarily as bad as the last few weeks, but not exactly one I want to remember.
Yeah. Once the Chargers got the lead, I was like, okay, it's over. It's like we're just not going to come back. Offensive line is porous. And that's what I don't get. It's like, why on 4th and 1, why did you run Genty like up the middle? Why didn't you throw a toss play? Why didn't, so the play calling is still trash,
Well,
I mean, so
it's the system, right? The system is broken and you can't expect Greg Olson. And he admitted that. They talked about it on the broadcast. He said, I can't come in and just fix the system overnight. Like I can do different play calls, but it's still within that system, which is not working.
Right, exactly. So my thing with as far as Pete, I mean, is it a foregone conclusion that Pete will not be back next year? I mean, I don't know.
No, but it scares me. It scares me that it's not a foregone conclusion, but anything can happen.
Yeah, and Raider Rube, I guess he's not preaching patience anymore, right? I mean, he mentioned, getting a young coach, right? I mean, a few weeks ago he was saying you need to be patient. It's like I am not going to be patient with a 74-year-old head coach.
Yeah, I think
if Pete was 64, I would be.
Pastor Mike, I think to defend Rube for a second, I think he was more talking about the building of the roster. I could be wrong. I'll let Rube speak for himself next week, maybe. But I think that's what he was more focused on. But I get your point.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I hope, because to me, it's like, it's just not working. I mean, if a coach of it's like the flavor of the month, right? Flavor of the season, whatever, we're going through coaches, but with Pete, it's like, you got to be done as far as I'm concerned. I have no trust in the guy at all. It's just, there's just no way. I mean, I can see him building this roster and building this team. And obviously there's a bunch of dysfunction going on, which, hey, come on, man. It's the Raiders. Of course there's dysfunction. There's been dysfunction for how long, right? I mean, it's being an old Raider fan, from, witnessing, the first Super Bowl win and, LaMonica, Stabler and all those guys, it's sad to me, but I mean, this year, like I told you guys, a few weeks ago, it's like, I'm not going to any more games, selling my tickets to the best that I can. As a matter of fact, I contacted somebody I knew on Facebook that are Chief fans and say, hey man, you want my Chief tickets? Cause I want to make money, now. And they, unfortunately, they're like, nah, because, the Chiefs hopefully don't make the playoff either. So so they're not so keen on that, but I'm hoping and optimistic that we can, get this thing turned around, but it is going to take a while. And I have to disagree with Tarek. And when he talked about the high ticket prices, Mark Davis has nothing to do with the high ticket prices in the secondary market. That's me and other guys, and so
true.
And I hate those, apps that now, you can get the tickets last minute really cheap. It's like, no, thank you. It's like, no, I'm not looking to make a fortune. I'm just looking to break even, really, to be honest with you. But hopefully next year it'll be better.
The stadium sold out to season ticket and PSL owners. So
exactly.
Anything you're buying is on the secondary market. The price goes up as well. So and if you can't sell them, remember too, we got our buddies over at Raider Dad, who can
I've donated to Raider Dad 2 or 3 times this year. So
nice. Awesome.
I believe in that organization. So if I wait till about halfway through the week and then, okay, I'm not going to sell them. Okay, I'll give them to him.
No, that's awesome. But you got to get your money back. I totally understand that. So we'll see how it goes. Pastor Mike, as always, a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for what you do.
Good to see you guys, man.
All right. Take care of yourself.
Right. See you later. Mm-hmm.
All right. There is Pastor Mike.
And he's the best.
Oh, he's the best. Yeah. And what he's saying, I get it. And I think everybody's there. There's some people still defending Pete Carroll. And look, I don't wish, how we are here too, just like you guys are there. I don't wish anything bad on a human being. It's just not working. And there's a lot of hubris involved here. Sorry. I have respect for what the guy did, but I don't have respect for sticking with something is not working. Then you have, look, nepotism's part of business. Every business. It happens. It is what it is. But if you have somebody working for you that's related to you and they're not doing the job and they're doing the job so poorly that the group they run is one of the worst, if not the worst in the entire league, you can't defend that. And you can't just go to the bloodline and say, well, he's my son, I'm not going to fire him. No, it's a tough business. Sometimes you got to fire people close to you, and he should have done that already. But hey, what do I know? All right, we're going to go out now. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say that the challenge for me too is that it's hard as a fan to listen to that man go to the podium and lie to us. Talk about, we had a championship week of practice. We're on the verge of doing something good. Gino's playing really well right now, or all the offensive line comments that have been gone. Like those things, it's gaslighting is a popular term nowadays. Full of shit is another one for old school guys like us. But you know what I mean? It's like, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining, Pete. Like we can see this stuff, and there is no fan base harder to get over than Raider Nation. It's us. Like we are so invested into this and have lifetime investments in this. And homie, you've been here for 12 games. So don't freaking try to come in here and tell us that everything is okay when clearly we can see that it's not. And I would have so much more respect for that man. And frankly, one of the biggest letdowns around that guy is that because of his history in the league and in football in general, I thought he would be a little more microphone savvy and be willing to own what it is that's going on. And it's not. It's a constant blame shift. It's a constant finger point. And if you can't own up to the things that you're responsible for, I have a really hard time respecting you.
Yeah, the denial is over the top. And in fact, I've had people complain because our podcast opening, Murf, has Pete Carroll from the press conference where he's talking about, we're going to go out, we're going to win. And people are like, you got to change that. Because fans, to your point, like, dude, you're not telling us the truth. You're not being forthright with us. you don't expect the coach to go up there and throw players under the bus and say that we
No.
suck. No, but you say, hey, look, we're letting you down. Here's what we're doing. We're trying to fix it. We're trying to do this. Do we have the right guys to fix it? I hope so. If we don't, then we got to work on that too. If there was some honesty there, some forthrightness, then I think fans would be okay. They still might want him gone, but they would at least feel like, all right, at least the guy's not just blowing smoke up our ass, right? He's being truthful with us. So I totally get you as well. All right, we're going out to Elias is going to join us in now. Elias, what's up, man? Where are you at again?
I'm out in LA.
All right.
What's up,
Yeah.
Elias?
How's it going, guys?
Were you at the game?
Dodger fan, are you?
I am a Dodger fan.
Oh.
So I've got one thing to root for. All right. So a couple things. I did not go to the game. I was offered tickets at face value. Me and my dad were gonna go, and we said, hell no. Not gonna spend my money on that. So first thing I want to go or talk about is the O-line. That O-line is atrocious still. Brendan Carroll, the nepotism, like you guys have been saying, everybody sees it, everybody knows about it. But there's one play in particular that I want to talk about. I believe it was the first or second quarter. You've got 8 Chargers defenders in the box. It's clearly an all-out blitz, and Kappa just gets completely blown up as the center. Gentie's on Gino's right hip. He's got to go block that linebacker that's just going straight for Gino, and Derwin James gets his sack. That was just a completely blown out play from the jump. I went to college with Alex Kappa. Actually, we went to Humboldt State together, and I was super stoked when he signed with the Raiders. And man, it sucks that he's not as advertised, not the guy I remember. I mean, he played tackle. It was Division II at Humboldt State, but yeah, it's just completely different in the NFL. The next thing, Murph, you mentioned this at the start, the defense missing tackles. I'm pretty sure we have the worst or we're the worst team at missing tackles in the NFL. We have the highest missed tackles. I'm almost certain on that. I don't know if there's stats to back that up. I haven't looked into it myself, but I trust Murph in looking into that. And then last thing here, offense scores less than 15 points yet again. Just horrible offense. Greg Olsen, he's not a miracle maker. We've had renditions of him in the past, and he's not the guy. So it sucks. And then for me, I think Raider Rube said this. Chris Shula as head coach would be awesome. I think a young defensive minded. I know you guys are of the young offensive minded guys, but Brian Daboll's sitting right there. Why don't we pick him up as an offensive coordinator? He was a miracle worker with Josh Allen. So if we could get a young quarterback in the first round, hopefully Mendoza, and pair him with Brian Daboll, I think that would be great. Even if we have a defensive-minded head coach in Chris Shula there, but that's really all I wanted to go over. But
and with Daboll, for example, does he want? He probably wants a head coaching job, but we'll see. He's been rumored for some college jobs as well. But a good thought there. You talk about missed tackles. I'll give you the stats here. Bengals lead the league, and since I'm in Cincinnati and I have Bengal buddies. If you think the Raiders are bad, you should watch the Bengals. Then the Steelers are second with 94, Colts third with 90. This is today. So the Raiders may have moved up, and the Raiders are fourth with 85 missed tackles. So they're in the bottom 4, maybe after tonight 3. So it's a good point.
Caused 9 missed tackles just himself.
Yeah.
So we're definitely top 2, if not 1.
Probably 2. You're probably right.
Yeah. So
actually, the Bengals defense had a better game this week, so they might be catching up to the Bengals.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I liked Murph's tweet today. This is that annual game of some unknown player has a career day against the Raiders. Death, taxes, and that right there. You know what I mean? So and then also the trap games. Can't forget the yearly trap games that we all get. So that's really it. Also, Cincinnati Airport. I flew into there the other day. Not really in Cincinnati.
No, Northern Kentucky.
Weird. That's kind of weird. So
yes.
But yeah.
Too far. I just drove my son there this morning. So to go back to Vegas. So there you go. All right, man.
I got a question. What's your Twitter handle?
It's just my first name @Elias Amador _. I
All right. I'm going to make sure
follow both you guys.
I follow you. As Scott prefaced in
I
the
will.
beginning of the show, it's the old school Jim Rome. Get in, get out, have a take, and don't suck. Dude, you brought the thunder. That was awesome.
He was
man.
awesome. Yes,
Thanks,
man. We
guys.
appreciate it. All right, brother. We'll see you next time. Have a good week and take it easy on the freaking Padres, please. All right.
Can't do that.
I know. I get it. All right, brother. Thank you so much. There we go. That was a good one. Yeah, he was all prepped, man. He had his list. I love that. Right?
Love
Makes
it,
it
man.
really
That was
good.
fantastic. Heck yeah, man. That's
Good
awesome,
stuff.
man. Love it. Great,
And look, the offensive. Look, he went to school up at Humboldt State. Yeah, you got all people are like Humboldt State. Where's that? For those of us who grew up in California,
where the weed is.
it's where the weed is. There's some good mushrooms up there too, Murph. Don't forget the
Oh,
mushrooms.
Hey.
Up there at Sonoma, and then I had all my buddies went to Chico State, which was much more about beer.
That's where I went.
I know. Chico
Well,
State.
yeah.
Remember the old Chico State logo with the 3 Wildcats with the mugs, and they got rid of it because things got too sensitive. But
Absolutely. And
I
they
love
can't
that logo.
Pioneer Days, and then we just changed it to Frontier Days and kept burning couches out on the street. Yeah.
Exactly. That's crazy that I was probably up there when you were there visiting my buddies, having fun,
Oh, that's wild.
playing around. Good stuff. Small world. All right. Appreciate it. Elias, thanks so much. All right, we're going out to Raider Chapin. What's up, man?
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing good, buddy.
Well, to start positive, I just wanted to say and thank you for you guys and all Raider Nation, because these past few seasons we have been each other's like therapy group.
Exactly.
So at least we have that.
We can't prescribe drugs. That's the only thing we can't do.
And the other thing is, I know I said like 3 weeks ago that maybe we should keep Pete because we didn't want to give an image of dysfunction, and that ship has sailed. Like that's done. Like at this point, I'm like, yeah, fire Pete, because the image of dysfunction is there. We can't fix that. We need to fix, and not only like the coaching, but like everything, the whole organization. And the thing that convinced me to get rid of Pete was how selfish he's been with all his decisions. And I don't know if Mark Davis ever hears this. I just want him to know that if you're looking for a new slogan to rebuild, or a new mantra to rebuild this organization, it should be the shield comes first. I don't care that Gino is your buddy. I don't care about your son. Frankly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I like football, but I love the Raiders. So when people tell me that, oh, it's a shame, like Pete Carroll, all the things that he has brought to the game, I'm like, what the F are you talking about? Yeah. Why should I care? Did he did anything of that with the Raiders? No. Why should I care? Is he helping the Raiders? No. All right. How bad is the situation? Is it that bad? All right, get rid of it. And that should be the mantra through the whole team. Should be the mantra for Tom Brady, for Spytek, for everyone. I agree with Murf that we need to bring a head of football operations into the building and set the ship as hell. But make it, the one thing that Mark Davis has to make clear is that the shield comes first. I don't care who you are. That has to be your motivation from now on. And so basically that. And I don't know. At this point, I think that maybe he should call Ice Cube and say, Ice Cube, I don't care what you want. You can have it. But use your Dodgers contract to get me Andrew Freeman on the phone and let him help me rebuild this organization. He doesn't have to do the drafting, but just have him tell me how to do the structure, because he's already doing that with the Lakers. Man, that's what I was going to pay Chip Kelly. I'm going to pay you Andrew Freeman. And ask you if you can have like your own. I'm going to make you an ordinary Raider and retire your number if you get me that.
And Scott, can I do something there?
Go jump in.
Dude, you just touched my silver and black Raider heart right there. When you said, I like football, but I love the Raiders. And that's the thing that makes us Raider fans different from, I think, a lot of other NFL fans, is that we elevate the team. We elevate that shield above everything else. And if it's not feeding into the success of the shield and this organization, then I don't want it anymore. And none of us do. And that's where like I can look at like the Pete Carroll's history in football and go, okay, well, that's great. You won 2 championships at SC, and you might even be an SC guy, being that you're an LA guy. But like that doesn't have anything to do with the Raiders. Him going to the Super Bowl and winning, and then going to the Super Bowl and losing, has nothing to do with the Raiders. I could give a shit about his legacy in other team uniforms. All I care about is so far the 12 games in silver and black, and that's been dog shit. So therefore, you're going to receive that kind of an ire from us, because while that's only been 12 games for you, it's been lifetimes for guys like us. And so I love that comment that you just made, brother.
Yeah,
thanks.
absolutely, man. All right, well, hey, thanks for dropping in. We'll see you next time.
Thank
all right,
you guys.
And you know what else? He brings up a really good point too, Murph, that I think goes in line with what we've been talking about the entire show, which is, look, you could actually, because all these people who are arguing, well, if you fire Pete Carroll again, nobody's going to want to work here because you just keep firing people. If you keep him, it could do more damage, because with all the dysfunction and the lack of performance and all this other stuff he fired 2 coordinators before week 13 of the first year. Who's going to want to come work for him? Yeah. So I think people forget that. It's like, which is worse? And to me, it's worse to double down on the crap you've done and that's failed. So there you go. All right, we're gonna get to our last video drop in here. It's Captain Refucho. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, fellas?
Give us your best couple minutes here.
Yeah, because I have a few minutes coming up there, but man, this game is really embarrassed right now because first and foremost, the offensive line is weak. They cannot move the defense in the right direction. They cannot block and protect the quarterback. And they cannot make a whole pause for the running backs because defenders either bulldoze or corral them for the right for the pocket, and they become the reason that the quarterback cannot move around the half time and get sacked. These are the reason that the running backs cannot gain any ground and after taken by the backfield, because we have an offensive line that is so weak that we have to depend on the running backs and tight ends picking off with a huge share of blocking. Think about that. 7 blockers and still cannot get the job done. So what's going to be my reason about it? Yeah. We need to start from the trenches. But right now it seems like they don't have to, because we lead at least like 4 new offensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 4 defensive backs, which is corners, safeties, and a modern defensive philosophy. All of that, because if they need to win it about this, we have to start in the trenches. And we don't have a trench. And also, Geno Smith showed off today that he is incapable to lead this team, because a lot of the sacks and interceptions, but no awareness, and took unnecessary sacks. Because I think the organization took a huge swings the offseason and they really missed, because they had some good credit. They saw the performance of the offense and cut bait them quickly, all things considered, because I think it's fair to judge Jens Hambly of the offense of the 11-game stretch. Because we know that online needs a big infusion of talent. That is much obvious. But I doubt that guys who made like at the professional level, they're really bad. So why get a think about it? We need a youngest coach with a positive mentality, discipline, because this is not a retreat. And of course, like we don't need like a 74-year-old coach coming out there, because the experiment between Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly is done, because it's over, because it isn't working. It's not like a science project. It's not working. The experiment, it's done. It became a failure. And we need to do something about for the Raider Nation.
Scott, I have a question for you based on Rafa's comments there. When we see Geno get to the line, and I know the offensive line is an absolute train wreck, but his inability to identify coverages and then assign protections just on that Derwin James sack alone, doesn't that frustrate the hell out of you? I mean, I know you're not a fan and you're watching it as an objective observer, but like his inability to do that, those things are on him.
Yes, because he has to identify that and call it out. He did not make the call out to Genty, who Genty ended up having to block 2 guys, which he couldn't do because Kappa got run over and you had the guy coming up the middle and then you had James coming off the edge. And so, he didn't even call it out. Usually you see a guy up front and say, hey, who's helping here? Who's helping here? And then the scheme, because the system is broken, they don't have the right scheme there. But you're right. But also Geno Smith hit another batted ball today, right? Including the interception. He doesn't release the ball fast enough, and that's a big problem too. So, Captain, you're absolutely right about that, man. Thanks for being on. We'll see you next show. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you one last thing because we need something to do about for the Raider Nation because, like I said it before on social media, being a Raider fan, it's not for the weak because we're just like the greatest fan base in the whole world. So I just wanted to tell you, stop bitching around, wake the fuck up, choose balance, and of course, think as a Raider fan. Let's go.
There you go. All right. Way to end that one, man. You gotta light that fire.
You dropping them F-bombs, man, with that behind it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. With passion and conviction.
Love
yes,
it.
we can do that. We'll just put the little warning on it so that when people are listening to it, they know there's some like color in there. That's okay. I don't mind it on the post game. I mean, we got to get it out, right?
We started letting it fly, and just I'll be brief, I promise. We started letting it fly on Raiders Fan Radio a little more often, and I was inspired by Pat McAfee and his move over to ESPN, and he's got the disclaimer at the beginning of the show, and he's like, we talk how people talk. And that's the truth. And especially in an emotional post-game show like this for Raider fans, like, you know what I mean? So I appreciate you and letting me and everybody else just kind of, have some room in there.
I've been letting it go too. And people for the first time, and people are like, whoa, dude. And I'm like, yeah, I listen, I might not be the Raider fan that everybody is out there, but I've had to watch the same team for 8 years too. And even covering it, you get frustrated. You're not going to see, for example, the newspaper guys do that and stuff because they're not necessarily on radio and do something different. But for me, I'm like, holy shit. I mean, I just can't, because there's no other, you're right. You got to talk like people talk. If I'm sitting at a bar with you and Jeff and Michelle and Mo, and we're talking about the Raiders, believe me, we'd be saying that stuff. So it's not anything out of the ordinary. And I want people to express themselves.
Well, and bro, when you and Mo were going at it the other day, and you're talking about doing junk measurement and all that kind of stuff, I was dying. That was amazing. That was one of my favorite podcasts you guys have ever done because it was like you could feel through the audio, you could feel even your frustrations, you and Mo both starting to build up and come through the microphones, man. And it was a very candid, genuine moment between you two guys, and I thought it was great podcasting.
Well, I appreciate that. And as I said a couple of shows ago, as I've done this, like you said, I try to always be objective, but at the same time, I've gotten to know people like you. I've gotten to know all of our listeners and viewers who are Raider fans who invest time, money, and emotion into the team. So now I'm pissed for them because I care about them, right? I care about them. I don't just care that they listen to the show and it gives us downloads. No, I actually care about them and I know how much they love. And I agree with what Captain just said. It is the best fan base there is. And so when that fan base is crapped upon and lied to, that bothers me. That's just injustice to me in the simplest form. And yes, it's sports. There's a lot more serious things in the world. I get it. But it just makes me angry as well. So there you go. What doesn't make me angry, though, is the amazing work that you, Michelle, and Jeff, and everybody does, of course, with the One Nation Foundation and all the super chats. We've had a few of those come through today, and we appreciate everybody who's done that. That all goes to, of course, the One Nation Foundation. Murf, tell everybody about what you guys are doing. And even despite a 2-10 record, one of the positive things is how Raider Nation comes together. Tell everybody about that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott, as always, for the platform. And thank you, Raider Nation, for the amazing, support that you give our nonprofit, which is the One Nation Foundation. We figured out that we can make some money with Raiders Fan Radio 6 years ago now, back in 2019. We founded that nonprofit, and we give the money away to Raiders-related charities. And just to give you an example and how it's grown based on your support, the very first check I ever wrote to the Bolitnikoff Foundation was for for $2,000. And collectively, since then, we've issued checks to them for another $45,000. We've given the folks at Raider Dad, I think, 10 grand at this point over the past couple of years. Actually, might even be more than that because now it's been 3 years. But anyways, point being, all that growth is based on the generosity of Raider Nation. And so we just ask you, if you've got it, it's a giving time of year. And if you've got, extra money that you want to part with and donate to a charity, and 100% of it, will go to some incredible Raiders related charities, go to onenationfoundation.net, hit the donate button, and 100% of that money will go to these wonderful, wonderful organizations. Any of your super chats, any of that, not only on Raiders Fan Radio, but also here on Silver and Black today, as Scott is so kind to share any of those with us, the One Nation Foundation. But more importantly, though, even if it's not about the, it's, of course, it always comes down to the money when it comes to supporting these organizations. But even if you can't support monetarily, just hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit a thumbs up, hit a retweet. We are in the dredges of freaking Raider football right now. Like, it's the worst time of year as show producers like Scott and I are, in terms of, trying to, generate genuine content that's not a bunch of clickbaity bullshit, and just to get out there and do really good shows with thoughtful conversation amongst folks. And so we would just ask that you support those, because without supporting those, we can't grow the foundation. And that doesn't cost you anything. All it takes is a like, a subscribe, a thumbs up, a review, a tweet, a retweet, tell your Raider friends about us, any of that kind of stuff, because that generates advertising opportunities. And we have sports betting partners. Scott has sports betting partners, here with Sleeper Picks. And so, and it supports Odyssey, Odyssey, and it supports, the network that we're on. So we just thank you guys for that. And that's the really, honestly, that's the best way to support. But of course, if you want to give to us monetarily, we will welcome that as well, and are very thankful for it. And so we're just going to keep giving it away. We're going to keep growing the foundation. We've got some, I'm going to say this real fast. And I know I say that all the time on this show. I'm like, I'll say it real fast.
My friend. Take your time. Give it to us.
And then I talk for like 19 minutes afterwards. Scott, you've been an amazing advisor to us over the years when it comes to legacy media and how to operate in that space, because I'm just a dopey fan with my dopey opinions in my basement, talking about my favorite football team with my best friends. But we're on the verge of being able to grow the foundation even more, because we're finally looking to be able to be I don't want to say employed necessarily, but we've never been paid to do our show, right? Never, ever. It's always been fan-funded things we're actually got an organization behind us that's willing to enable us to do the show and to be compensated for it. And 100% of that money, I'm feeding it right back in to the foundation. That opportunity doesn't come without the amazing support, the subscribers, all that stuff. So thank you guys for that. It's an honor to represent here on this show, especially the fan voice, to represent Raider Nation. Like, it is, you all and your support of that is incredibly kind. And for Scott to give me this platform each and every week is incredibly kind. And I could rhapsodize about it, talk about it all night long, so I'm not going to. But I just want to thank you, Scott, and thank you to all those listeners, because we've got some really, really cool stuff going on that's going to support some amazing, amazing folks that are doing the Lord's work out there. And so thank you for that.
No, and I appreciate everything you guys do. You walk the walk, man. You guys do great things. And don't forget to subscribe to Raiders Fan Radio, wherever you get your audio podcast, but also over on video, and catch our show on Wednesdays live at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, because it's a blast. It's so much fun. Usually I'm sitting outside. Now it's getting cold outside, so I'm bundled up with a heater at my feet, smoking a cigar, watching the guys do their show, because it's so much fun. There might be bourbon involved too, but nonetheless, that even makes it fun. But nonetheless, thank you, man. I appreciate everything you do, and make sure you support them as we had the scroll across with the website and do all of that. Murf, my friend, thank you again for being with us. We'll see you next time. And again, I'm glad you guys had a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you next week. Oh, Scott, I always love to yell like, "Go Raiders, let's go beat whoever's next on the calendar." Yeah, not so much. Come on, let's work for this quarterback.
Get the quarterback. That's the new mantra. All right, brother. Take care. All right, there you go. I want to thank you guys all for being with us here on this post-game edition of Silver and Black today. Of course, brought to you by our good friends at Sleeper Picks. And I'll remind you, $100 match on your first deposit up to $100 from Sleeper Picks to play daily fantasy football with me. You saw my picks tonight for tonight's game. I got to check what the score is going on now, but make sure you check back with us earlier in the week and we'll get my picks and most picks for Thursday night's games as well. So check out Sleeper Picks, download the Sleeper Pick app, and don't forget the code GENTY. For everybody here at Silver and Black today, including my partner Mo Moten and of course Murf from Raiders Fan Radio, I'm Scott Branson. Thanks, Raider Nation. Appreciate you joining us. We'll talk to you soon.